5.29. As always, we're going to read the whole sentence, and as we read it, we're going to look for things that we can bracket off until we get to solid punctuation marks. This first sentence is 3 lines. Contra ea titurius sero facturos clamitabat. Okay, looks like I've got, a subject and a verb. Cool. And then I've launched into cum plus not the ablative, so I'm going to bracket off my cum clause. But we've also got like an or, and then kind of another cum clause through a subjunctive verb. And I'm going to go ahead and pair that esset with that acceptum. Contra ea is a lovely little prepositional phrase, right? Against these things. Titurius kept on shouting, not just clamabat, but clamitabat, that iterative verb for quentative, I guess. He kept on shouting that facturos must be a facturos esse. I don't have a subject, so it's got to be that, like, the people, right? All this stuff that we've been talking about. Kata's speech, right? That they were, or that they would be, like, doing something, that they were about to act, probably. They were acting sero, too late, or that they would be acting too late. Cum, we're going to start off with a when. When maiores manus, subject, of hostium, right, we're going to attach our genitive. Adjunctis Germanis is a lovely ablative absolute. Could argue that it's an ablative of accompaniment without a cum, but works nicely as an ablative absolute. Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. When larger manuses of hostiums with Germanis adjunctis had conveniscented, or when aliquid plus the genitive, literally something of this, but we're going to say some calamitas, had been acceptumed, and then a prepositional phrase, in proximis hibernis. And then the next sentence, right off the bat, I've got an accusative and an infinitive, so I'm probably continuing this indirect statement of things that Titurius was saying. And of course, Titurius is Sabinus, right? So he kept on shouting that. Brewem, esse. Brewem's an adjective, not a noun, so I need to somehow pair it with occasionem. And consulendi is a genitive gerund. So I'm going to need to pair that with my other noun, with occasionem, right? Genitives always get attached to something else. So, I don't know. He said that the occasionem of consulendiing was brewem, or he said that there was a brewem occasionem for consulendiing. However you want to do it. Continuing my indirect statement, but it's like a double. He said that he thought, which sets me up for another indirect statement, that Caesarem profectum must be profectum esse, that Caesarem had profectum esse, had profectum essayed to Italy. Continuing my main indirect statement here, neque aliter, nor otherwise, carnutes interfeciendi tasgitu, that's genitive, so I'm going to attach that to the noun it's closest to, so like, and it looks like a gerund, actually, it's got a thing with it, so a gerundive, but it's going with concilium, so it's like a concilium of interfeciendiing tasgidius. Carnutes must go with an infinitive verb, which is kind of this and kind of this together. And that's a little weird, but we can make it work. So he said that the carnutes would not otherwise have been about to capturos a concilium, and we saw that phrase in 5.28 at the end, right? To concilium capere means to make a plan, right? Nor otherwise would the carnutes have been about to capturos a concilium of or for interfeciendiing tasgidius. And the eburones would not, if clause, if ille were adesset, imperfect subjunctive, the eburones wouldn't this, be about to venturos ad castra, to our camps. But I'm going to put the nostri with the noun it's closest to, tanta contemptione, which is ablative. With so much contemptio, probably 4 nostri. Continuing my indirect statement that the hostem was not the auctorem, like we were told at the end of 5.28, auctore hoste, right? He's rebutting here that the hostem was not the auctorem, but that the rem was spectareing, but that he was spectareing the rem. The second one's probably better. Sub esse renum, right? My next indirect statement. That the Rhine was sub esse. Next indirect statement, which has, as I'm looking at it, that could be ablative or dative, that could be ablative or dative. That's going with the Magno for sure. Probably a double dative, looking at this. And I need a form of sum to have a double dative. There it is. That's an infinitive, because I'm still in an indirect statement. Oops. So esse going with the accusative, mortem, and mortem goes with ariovisti. And I have more accusatives, superiores nostras victorias. He kept saying that, right? That the mortem of ariovistus and our more recent victorias were a dative, a magno dolori to the dative, the Germanis. Continuing my indirect statement, that infinitive accusative, that Gallia was ardeireing with, probably an ablative absolute, right? With so many contumeliis having been acceptist sub populi Romanis genitive, so we'll put it with the imperium, the noun it's closest to. And then redactam is describing Gallium, so it's a participle. All of this stuff before it is part of the participial phrase describing, right, everything between the participle and its noun. So that Gallia was ardeireing, having been redactad under the imperium of Populi Romani with tot contumeliis having been acceptist. Probably maybe a comma here. Superiore looks ablative, gloria looks ablative, extincta is my participle in the ablative case, and rei militaris is genitive, so we're going to put it with that gloria, right? With there's that same word again. The recent gloria of rei militaris having been extincted, right? Or being extincted. Oh man, it's like Gaul lost its former awesomeness. Finally, right, and then kind of like an indirect question. He said that who was or who could persuaderet the dative him of this? Sine takes the ablative, hertare, and then I don't know why I'm highlighting this in orange. My indirect statement is here. After my indirect question and my prepositional phrase, that Ambiorix had descendised to a concilium of this sort without, I'd put that inside my indirect statement, without a certa re, or without the re being certa. Continuing my indirect statement, that his own sententiam in utramque partem, like kind of like on either side, right, in either argument, in either situation, was tutam. If clause, right, if nothing, was durius neuter comparative, right, was more durus, with nullo periculo ad proximam legionem, they would. This has got to be a per venturos essay, right? Continuing my indirect statement. This was his opinion, right? that if nothing was durius, cum nullo periculo ad proximam legionem, they would perventuros. Another if clause, if Gallia, if omnis Gallia, right, it's always omnis Gallia, consentiret, like was agreeing, cum Germanis, continuing my indirect statement, unam, like esse, there was one what? Salutem. The one salutem was positamed in celeritate. And you could say that positam esse actually is your infinitive. It's just split up. Their one salutem was positamed in celeritate. Kotai could be genitive or dative. And then eorum with the aquae tells me that these are both genitive, right? So like, indeed, of kata and of them, qui dissentiret, concilium quem habere exitum. Looks like I've got an indirect question. Like, I need my genitives, kotai and eorum, to be attached to a noun. The closest one is concilium, and it would make sense to have a plan of kata and of those who dissentierented. But I need to examine this indirect question. Well, question in my indirect statement. Not really an indirect question. Quem probably goes with exitum. What success, right? Quem plus a noun. And then that's going to be the subject of my infinitive habere. And object of my indirect statement. Habere is my verb, and then the concilium of kata and eorum qui dissentierented is in fact my subject. So like, what success did the concilium of these people habere, in which si non praesens periculum, my if clause doesn't have a verb, so it's probably like a sit, right, a subjunctive sit, in which if there weren't a praesens periculum, at any rate, certainly subject, passive periphrastic, fames had to be timendad from the ablative or because of the ablative. Fames from longinqua obsidione should be timendad. So he's addressing the points that Kata made in 5.28. He's saying, we don't have a lot of time. You're worried about Caesar's opinion, but Caesar, right, that he thinks, right, at least Sabinus thinks that Caesarem is perfectum desed into Italiam, because if he hadn't, the Carnutes wouldn't have done these things. Don't worry, it's not that the hostem, right, he was saying that the hostem was not the auctorem, but this was going on. Right? That Gall's all a mess right now, right? And why would Ambiorix have done this if there weren't something else going on? But hey, my opinion, my advice, my opinion that we should leave, right, is safe regardless. Because we're going to perventuros esse nullo cum periculo ad proximam legionem, right, if there's nothing bad. And if there's bad stuff going on, then our one salutem is in celeritate. And he's like, what success does this other plan that's been laid out for you have, in which if there isn't a praesens periculum, we would still have to worry about this, right? This needs to be timended from this. So it's a pretty good rebuttal, though we know that it doesn't end up well for them.